If you enjoy videos like this, subscribe to the channel before the video starts. Asterisk, the night was dark, and the space station trembled under the power of the storm outside. Lightning flashed through the massive glass windows of the observation deck, and rain-like energy streams battered the hull. Inside the lab, the hum of machines struggled against the howling wind. Ethan, a human engineer, was checking the containment units when the lights flickered. One moment, the lab was bright. The next, it plunged into shadows. He reached for the emergency panel, but before he could react, the storm caused a power surge. The door sealed shut with a hiss. Trapped, across the room, Lyra, his alien colleague, moved silently. Her skin shimmered in the dim red emergency lights, changing colors with her mood. Her eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the chaos outside. Ethan had worked with her for months, but he never saw this side of her. There was something different tonight, something wild. A sudden crash made Ethan jump. A containment unit had toppled over, glass shattering across the floor. Lyra hissed, a sound that was not quite human, not quite animal. She stepped closer to him, her movements fluid and unpredictable. Ethan's heart pounded. He had seen alien biology, but he had never seen an instinct like this. She's reacting to the storm, Ethan whispered to himself, unsure if he spoke aloud. His mind raced. Lyra's species had a unique mating season, but it was supposed to be controlled in the lab. Something had triggered it. The storm outside grew stronger. The lights flickered again, and the lab shook. Papers and small devices slid across the floor. Ethan backed up slowly, keeping his eyes on Lyra. Her glowing patterns were now faster, more erratic. He realized with a jolt that she was not just nervous, she was in her mating instinct. And he was trapped with her. Lyra's head tilted, and she studied him with a strange curiosity. Ethan tried to keep calm, reminding himself to breathe. Okay, stay calm, he muttered. Don't panic. But every instinct in his body screamed danger. He needed a plan, but the storm outside made every door a dead-end dot. Suddenly, Lyra lunged not at him, but at a malfunctioning machine. Sparks flew, and the smell of ozone filled the air. The lab was turning into a storm of its own. Ethan ducked just in time as a metal arm swung dangerously close. The sound of her growl mixed with the storm's roar, creating a deafening symphony of chaos. Ethan's mind raced. He had to survive until the storm passed. He had to understand Lyra before things got worse. And yet, there was something mesmerizing about her wild energy, a strange pull that made him both terrified and fascinated. The lights flickered one last time, and then everything went dark. Ethan froze. The storm was still raging outside, and the lab was silent except for Lyra's low, throaty hum. He knew one thing for sure, this night would change everything. And in that darkness, trapped with his alien colleague during her wild mating season, Ethan realized the real storm had only just begun. Asterisk, the storm outside raged like an untamed beast, battering the space station with blinding flashes of lightning. Inside the lab, chaos had taken over. Sparks flew from damaged panels, and the scent of burnt circuitry filled the air. Ethan's heart pounded as he scanned the room. Lyra, his alien colleague, was no longer just reacting. She was alive with wild energy. Her movements were mesmerizing, almost hypnotic. Her glowing skin shifted through colors faster than Ethan could track, reflecting fear, curiosity, and something primal he didn't understand. She hissed, a low sound that echoed through the lab, making Ethan freeze in place. Every instinct screamed danger, but there was no way out. Lyra's eyes locked on him. For a moment, it felt like time had stopped. Then she darted toward a table, knocking over glass vials. Liquid spilled across the floor, hissing as it met exposed wires. Ethan lunged to pull her back, but she was too fast. Slipping between his grasp with feline grace, the lab became a maze of peril. Sparks rained from the ceiling as malfunctioning equipment groaned. Ethan ducked, rolled and scrambled to the emergency console, trying to stabilize power. Each attempt was interrupted by Lyra's sudden movements. She leaped over counters, her long limbs moving in impossible ways, her instincts fully awakened. He couldn't help but notice the duality of her nature. One moment, she seemed like a dangerous predator, and the next, a curious child exploring the storm. Ethan's fear mixed with fascination. He knew he had to keep her calm, or survive the night. A loud crash made them both spin. A containment unit, jolted by the storm, had fallen near the main console. Sparks flew, and a small fire started. Lyra froze, then immediately moved to protect the console, instinctively pushing back against the flames with her strange, energy-manipulating appendages. Ethan blinked in disbelief. Her instincts were chaotic, but somehow intelligent, controlled. He realized that understanding her was the only way to survive. He spoke softly, keeping his voice calm. Lyra, we need to work together. She paused, tilting her head as if assessing him. Then, in a surprising move, she mirrored his actions, helping stabilize some of the falling equipment, just as Ethan felt a brief hope. The main lab window cracked with a loud groan. The storm outside had breached the outer layer, sending icy winds and energy surges inside. Lyra reacted instinctively, pulling him away from the edge, but the force of the storm threw them both to the ground. Gasping for breath, Ethan looked at her. Her wild, unpredictable energy was now tempered by a moment of trust. Yet the storm wasn't done. The lab groaned and shuddered under the pressure. Ethan realized with a chill that surviving the night wasn't just about avoiding danger, it was about understanding Lyra and her instincts better than anyone ever had. As lightning illuminated the lab one final time, Ethan's mind raced. The chaos had only just begun, and the night promised more surprises than he could imagine. One thing was certain. He wasn't just trapped with an alien, he was trapped with a force of nature, untamed and unpredictable, and every second counted. The lab was a battlefield of sparks and shattered glass. The storm outside screamed like the roar of a dying star, rattling the walls of the space station. Ethan's body ached from the chaos, but his eyes never left Lyra. She was a whirlwind of energy, her glowing patterns flashing wildly. Yet there was something different in her gaze, now a spark of awareness, as if she recognized him, not as prey, but as an ally. For a moment, the chaos paused. The storm outside sent a massive surge through the floor panels, and Ethan instinctively grabbed Lyra's arm, pulling her to safety. She froze, then allowed him to guide her. It was the first time she had let him take control. They worked together in silence. Ethan directed her toward the emergency control panels while she used her alien instincts to stabilize the damaged machines. Sparks flew dangerously close, but Lyra's movements were precise, almost elegant, blending primal energy with intelligence. Each second counted, and Ethan realized they were no longer two beings trapped in fear. They were a team fighting the storm. Then, with a sudden crack, the main observation window shattered, sending a gust of energy wind howling through the lab. Ethan stumbled, and Lyra caught him instinctively. Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the world outside seemed to fade. She hissed softly, not in aggression, but in warning and concern. Ethan realized something profound. Her wild instincts were not just dangerous, they were protective, loyal, and deeply intelligent. Working quickly, Ethan and Lyra managed to reroute the power and stabilize the lab. The storm outside began to die down, the furious winds softening to a hum. Breathing heavily, Ethan leaned against a counter. Staring at Lyra, she looked different, now less chaotic, more aware, almost human in her expression. Just as he was about to speak, Lyra moved toward the shattered window. With one swift leap, she disappeared into the night outside, leaving behind only a shimmer of her glowing skin and a faint hum in the air. Ethan stood frozen, heart pounding. The lab was safe, but he felt an emptiness where her energy had been. He knew one thing. This night had changed everything. He had survived, yes, but he had also glimpsed a world far beyond human understanding. A world of instincts, intelligence, and emotion intertwined in ways he could barely comprehend. Ethan's hand brushed against the emergency panel. The storm had passed, but its impact lingered in the lab and in his mind. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "I don't think this is over. She'll be back." Outside, the first faint glow of distant stars pierced the darkness, and somewhere beyond the station, Lyra watched. Her instincts had calmed, but a spark of wild energy remained. And deep down, Ethan knew that surviving the storm had only been the beginning of an adventure neither of them would ever forget. The night ended, but the story, the wild, unpredictable story, was far from over. If you liked the video, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.